Hi, my name is Bob Duncan, and this is Fruit Trees and More Demonstration Orchard and Nursery. And we're located just north of Victoria, near this little village of Sydney on southeast Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada. Today we're going to talk about growing olives in a climate that previously not thought possible to grow this Mediterranean fruit. So the principal areas of production of olives are still in the Mediterranean basin in places like Spain, Italy, and Greece. But there's also significant production in California, Australia, South Africa, and a few other places with Mediterranean-like climates. However, the olives are very adaptable species, and they can actually be grown from the true tropics, places like Kenya and Hawaii at higher elevations, right through to mild winter temperate climates like we have in this area. So in a true Mediterranean climate, olives bloom about May, and the fruit ripens late fall and well into the winter. In our climate, the bloom is delayed somewhat and actually doesn't happen until mid to late June, and the fruit ripens still in the early varieties like Pendolino in late fall, early winter, and then for the other varieties like Lecchino and Frantoio, they ripen mid-winter here. The olives will, however, store on the tree in perfect condition long after they're ripe, and all that happens is they just get deeper and deeper purple. So olives, when they're fully ripe, they're actually the color of a prune plum. Now olives, they look perfectly edible. If you look at these olives here, I'll just show some here. You can see these olives just hanging on the tree like so. They look like they should be edible, right? But in actual fact, these fruits are totally inedible, directly eaten off the tree. There are oleophenols in the fruit that make it astringent and quite bitter. And it makes you wonder how the ancients ever figured out that there was something edible here. But they did figure it out more than 6,000 to 8,000 years ago, that you could press oil that could be used in cuisine and for lighting and medicinal purposes and a number of other uses, and also that you could, if they were properly treated, you could make them directly edible as table olives, usually by some method of brining the fruit. So anyways, so there it is. This fruit here, this is late June, and this fruit has actually been ripe on the tree since March, and we're actually going to pick this more or less right away, and we're going to brine these by a traditional Greek method to produce Kalamata style olives. So now olives they're very hardy. The tree itself is hardy to at least -10, which is a temperature we essentially never see here. The fruit itself, which I've already said is on the tree at least part of the winter, will take temperatures down to about -4, I've discovered, or maybe a little worse than that. And what happens during a cold snap in the winter, the fruit will actually weazen up slightly right on the tree, and then when temperatures return above freezing, it'll plump up again to normal. However, if you get temperatures -5 or worse, you're almost for certain going to freeze the fruit right on the tree. Because of its Mediterranean origins, olives prefer to be grown on warm, sunny, well-drained sites. So in this area here, that means growing them either somewhere that's maybe slightly out of the weather, like against a south or a west wall, or just simply a nice southwesterly slope that bakes in the summer and is well drained. Olives are essentially pest-free. In our climate, they seem to have no pest. In the Mediterranean, there is actually a maggot that can get into the fruit, but we don't have that here. There is a scale that specializes on olive trees, and that is possible to have, but generally speaking, yeah, your olive trees are more or less going to be pest-free. Okay, some of the olives that do particularly well in our climate here in the Pacific Northwest are some Tuscan varieties like Lecchino and Frantoio and Pendolino and other Tuscan varieties that have been shown to produce well under our climatic conditions, and the trees are particularly hardy as well. Arbequina, Spanish variety, is also fairly commonly grown. Now, in terms of pollination, olives are not reliably self-fertile. Some varieties will set some fruit in isolation, but you will always get larger and fuller crops if they're cross-pollinated. Now olives are wind pollinated, so you definitely want them in a location where there's some air movement to move the pollen. In the event of very harsh weather, i.e. below -4, -5, before the fruit is actually mature and ready to be harvested, if the plant is growing the way I grow lemons, i.e. against a south or west wall, you actually have the option to protect the crop using the same system that I employ for our lemons, i.e. a combination of the old style Christmas lights and floating row cover or remay. Have a look at the lemon YouTube that we produced and you'll see the technique illustrated there. Okay, so now we're going to actually pick some fruit from this 7-meter tall tree that's growing against the west side of our house. But I'm not going to eat it. I've told you it's bitter and astringent, so we're not going to be tasting it. Not yet, anyways. Well, loaded with olives. So now I'm going to be picking some here. Boy, lots of big purple olives up here. Okay, so I just picked a half a bucket of olives. Now we're going to come down and have a look at what we got. So here we are, half a bucket of nice Licino olives, ready to be processed into Kalamata style olives. Kalamata, of course, is a variety of its own, but you can use that recipe with any kind of olive. Okay, so I just picked the last of the Licino olives off our 7-meter high Licino tree. Now I'm going to pick the olives from the Arbequina, which is a Spanish olive, and the olives are quite a bit smaller. This is a popular variety that has dwarfing characteristics and can be grown in high density olive groves both in Spain and in California. And it does just fine here as well. Purport it to be self-fertile, but you're still better off with a second variety to cross-pollinate it. Olives can be grown in climates similar to the modified Mediterranean climate that we have here on southeast Vancouver Island, i.e. along the shores of the Salish Sea in British Columbia and Washington State. And I would expect that in similar climates of northwest Europe, i.e. the Low Countries, parts of southwest England, and northern coastal France, that olives could be grown using the systems that we've worked out in our climate here. I hope that what we've shown you here is helpful, and that this opens up many more vistas for olive production for people living in similar climates. Thank you.